Okay. Hey, sweet. Now we sit and relax. How's it going? Welcome to the Daily Lunch and Learn. If you have any questions, type them in the chat or the QA, and I will answer them, me and my fellow colleagues here. I'll also demonstrate it in a decision server if I'm able to. Again, if you have any questions about decisions, feel free to ask them in the Q&A section or type them in chat, and I will answer them for you. Got a good question up in here. Can you please demonstrate how to set page variables? There is a flow run on the page with a form. We want to set parameters on the drop-down selection change. Then we want to use those variables inside the flow that we initiated on the same page. Yeah, I can actually absolutely show that. I'm trying to think if I have a project that I've already built that I could demonstrate that. All right, I might be able to build this. So when you're using page variables, how you set them up is, I'm going to drag over my decisions instance, and we're just going to create a folder where I'm going to demonstrate that. Create a folder, design a project, and I will show, let's see, creating page variables. All right, so now we're in this folder. Let's see, so let's create, let's see how fast I can do this. I'm going to create a process. Essentially what we're going to do is to demonstrate page variables, I'm going to create a dashboard that shows all the accounts in my system. And then I'm going to create a tiny form on that page that will then filter out said dashboard, depending on the selection of the form that I click on the dashboard. So it sounds complicated, but I'm going to walk through it. So let's add a normal folder. This is going to be our dashboard folder. And we'll make this one at root, move folder to root. And you can see create page variables. So what we're going to do is create a report or create a page. This is going to be all my accounts report, if I can spell. Then we're going to grab a report viewer, and I'm just going to put this in here. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to pick the report. That's create a new one. This is going to be the custom accounts report. And I'm just going to use the account data source. I'm going to grab the email. We're going to grab the let's see, email. What's the other one I want? I want active, is active, if I can spell it, is active, and we'll do created on date. I keep forgetting. It's an exact created on and created by. Oops, I clicked on created on date twice. Let me go ahead and delete that. Alrighty, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a variable in my URL. So you could do this by clicking on a data field, and you can send the data field as a filter change source. All this does is it places the value of this field in your URL like so. Why is that relevant? The reason that's relevant to your question is because when you're using get page variables, what essentially you're doing is you're just getting variables that appear in the URL up top here. So I'm going to call this created by. Let's see, let's do created by all lowercase. Alrighty, and I'm going to show you this. Close and save. We got the report. Beautiful. It's coming along together. I'm going to move this one here. And I'm actually going to rotate this. Let's move these columns up this way, and we'll put this here. Perfect. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach that page to this dashboard so I can have the scenario to demonstrate the can we have an example where it is not a filter on a report, but say transfer a selection from a drop down to another flow on the page that is triggered with a button, let's see. I can see if I can, let me see if I can do that. I think that would take a little bit. The concept would be the same. So let me show you this, because a lot of the same steps you're going to use, it's going to be the exact same here. It's the steps that matter, not necessarily the example. So I'll show you this. If it doesn't fit your use case, I'll ask you some further question to clarify. So let's just check this out. Because in this process, when I create a filter on this report to run it into another flow, let me use a form tile. So over here, you can see I have like admin@decision.com as the variable here. Now I'm assuming in your case, right, it sounds like you're going to have a process that you're going to have some variables, like, for example, the folder ID you're going to want to grab to get some data in a drop-down list, something like that. And so the next step here is I'm going to create a form. And in this form, let's see, page accounts, form tile. Create the tile form. Sure, this is going to be example tile form. What we're going to do is I'm going to add your drop-down list like so. And then what I'm going to do is let's add and we'll call this, I'll say of type string. And let's say I want a data name, and we'll say the list of this data name is, we'll call this list items. And I'll do my radio button list. Bum, 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 bum. This one's just going to be list of items. RBL, radio button list, and I'm going to say a string. I'll say selected item. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to add an active form flow here. This is going to be get created by. And then we're going to say, we'll just run this one at startup. We want to fetch all accounts, fetch entities, results, and then we're going to get distinct list. This does take some time to set up. I'm almost done. Distinct list of strings. Oh, I didn't attach the fetch entity step. Accounts, perfect. Now I can get distinct list of strings. I'm going to grab the entity results. I'm going to grab, let's grab all email. That's just here. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to output this into the item source of the entity list. Form data, radio button list, item source. Boom. And then I'll create this. Awesome. So I got that. All right. It's just not happy because it's selected list item. All right, so I'm gonna put this on here. So let's say, so in your process, you're gonna use a couple of steps to be able to pass around the data that's selected from one component into the other component here. So the step that you will use, and I actually have to pull up another resource because it's been a while since I've used the get page variable step. Let's see, projects. Now I remember. So here on this step, so inside to put some data into this flow. So let's say I wanted to populate the drop-down list on this form tile with all the created by, right? What we can do here is I can say, I want to edit the input data for the form tile. Like this is just in this circumstance. The steps that you'll probably be using for your process are going to be the get page variable step, get page variable. In this get page variable step, it allows you to pick a variable coming from your dashboard. It's very important that you have your properties set to your dashboard to have the right folder context. There's a certain type of flow that needs to be utilized to actually grab the folder ID. So let me go into, because what I can say here is I want to grab a page variable, and let's say it's my created by. And I typed it in small. And then I'm going to say the expected type is going to be a string value. And so with that value, I can get this page variable, and then I can populate it into this form or into wherever, and then send it in later on. So list of items, I'm going to build the array, and I'm just going to say that this has one item in here. So now I'm just going to click ignore for this one, ignore for this one, and ignore for this one. So that should let the validation go away. So now, excuse me. So now when we run this, let us check to see if our form contains that item in the dashboard, in the drop-down list. So it does not. A great way to troubleshoot this, because a lot of the get page variable steps you have to utilize them by fetching the page context and getting the page context ID. So what we may have to do is I'm going to turn on my global debugger and we can see what's happening in the process. This helps because as you can see, that variable ran in the background, but I don't know why it didn't run. I need to view more options to see why this drop-down list didn't populate with my item. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the global debugger on, and then I'm going to refresh this, and we can see the input flow run for this account. So it looks like the page variable ran as expected. So let's look at the inputs and outputs here. So it looks like it could not find anything here. So the page data ran, but it could not get that piece of data. So what that tells me is that I did not map in that data correctly. So if I go into my URL, you can see I've created by and then admin@decisions.com. If I want this to appear at the admin@decisions.com on a drop-down list, then I need to make sure I grab that context there. So I'm going to go back into my flow and take a look at my page. And let's see if I can troubleshoot it and figure it out. So I'm going to go back to the page designer. I'm going to go into the input data for this. I'm going to grab this. I want to say, let's grab the URL variable created by. Let's see if that gets the information that I want. Then I'm going to save this. And then let's put this on a dashboard. Now let's see if it populates with it. All right, so it looks like it didn't. So let's refresh the debugger and let's take a look at it now. Input. So still page data null, so it's still not outputting anything. So let me go ahead and let's try this again. Essentially, this is the process. You're going to keep messing around with the get page variable step and making sure that we get the values here. In your process, what you may be looking for is not necessarily the filter variable that I created on a report, but what you can get is you can get the folder ID. Of it. So let's say it sounded like in your process you had some data you're trying to fetch from somewhere. And so to get the page variables, you need to make sure that you can grab the folder ID to fetch any data inside a specific folder where the page resides. So that would be where you'd want to get that. How do you set that variable? In this context, I set that variable within a report. That's how I set that one initially. This was a report variable that I set here. So let's say in your report, there's a specific value you want to be in the URL. You'll have to click on the data field right here. And then you'll have to make sure that you say that you check this box that says send data as filter change source. And this will place the value of this report inside here. So yep, I'm going to troubleshoot that and try to figure that out. Input my data. I'm actually going to make sure, let me do it this way. Create a flow. And I'm going to say this is my get page variable flow. And I'm actually going to go to the properties, advanced settings, and I want this to be page context aware flow. That's the type of flow that I want. And so then what I'm going to do, let's grab as a get page variable. And we're going to grab the URL variable, and it's going to be created by. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to output that value. Show editor. So this should return page variable created by string, so it should output that page data. So then I'm going to just output that page data here. Save this, save this, save this. Let's see. That's the flow there. Let's go back to my page. Input data flow. I'm going to delete this step. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get page variable flow. Outputs page data. And I think this one, yep, I got page data in here as, let's see if it's got the input. Input. And I'm also going to do the, I think, selected list item as well. I'm going to map it in the same place to see if it'll work. Save, close this, save this. And then, let's see. Let's debug it further. I'm gonna try this one more time. And what I'll do, let me open this, is if you send me your email address, I'll mess around with this and then send you guys an export of the configuration. Boom. All right, input. Let's see if it gets it. Tail page data, no, get page variable. And I named this created by, didn't I? Created by, that's what I put here. Okay, hold on a second. I'm gonna look at my, I've done this before, it's just been a long time. Go to the trainer dashboard. Oh, I think that's the step I'm missing. I think it's just clicked. Hold on a second. I feel like I found the eureka moment. So there is, let me go here. Nope, not here yet. Completed projects. Go into student performance pages. And there should be like a trainer page. Yep, there is. Edit the page. And in this trainer page, I'm doing this on another screen, just trying to look at my configuration on how I set this up. Edit the town form. Okay, so that's the way I did it. Okay, so another thing I found is so here's one way. I'll show you one way to do it. I'll go back to the page. That's setting, that would set the dashboard parameter. That would be fine. I think that this might do it. Okay. This is a great question. I'm gonna go to my page. I'm gonna go, let's see. Nope, I don't want to edit the tile form. I want to let me try this. And then I'm going to say set dashboard params. This one's going to run at startup. And there's another step we can use called set dashboard parameters. So this one, when we're at the dashboard, you can create some, this is report parameters. And then this is going to be my example variable. I'm going to say example. And I'm going to say this is the test data. And I'm going to put this, I'm actually going to open up another browser. Here, I think this is it. I'm going to grab the dashboard folder, manage get folder ID, copy text. And then we'll set this to a constant. And so now what should happen is on startup, when I run this page, it should automatically place a variable of test in. Created by, I don't see the test. Let me see if it ran. I don't know if it ran. All right, let me refresh this. Now I should have get page variable, rule flow. Okay, that ran, but what's the other one? Does it, I think it might have to be an actual parameter. Can it be used by other flows triggered from the same page, not for a report? Yes, if you apply trigger flow, the main things that the main steps that you would need to do this, I'm just trying to figure out how I did this at one point, is these steps. You can do a set dashboard parameters. There should be a step called set dashboard parameters. It's not just a report. And then the get page variables. Let's do page. Let's look up some steps in here. Get page variable. Set page variable. I think I needed to use this step. These two steps would have done it. Let me debug and test it out. Bum, 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 bum. Let's go back into here. Get the form. So I'm gonna use the set page variable step. Page variable flow. We're gonna output the data. First thing I'm gonna do is actually gonna edit this one. Oh, do I have it open in another one? I do. Oh, right here. Perfect. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna set a page variable. I'm gonna set it as a constant. I just want to see if it appears in the URL. These are the main steps you'll be using. Again, I'm not sure the context of your process, but this will, I want to create a variable. This is going to be my test of type string. And then in test, we're going to say hello. And so now this should set our variable to that. Save. No, don't open that. That one's fine. Save this. Okay. Okay. Pages are one of the hardest things to troubleshoot because we have to keep looking at the dashboard. And there we go. So see how we have up here. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. See how I have set page variable for hello? So right now we have the set page variable to hello right here. So now what we can do is I can retrieve this page variable and let me see if I can place it inside of the drop-down list. Let's turn this on. I'm going to refresh this page. Yep, test hello. Test hello. So it says it has an error here. I wonder what that error is. All right, so we can see it worked here. Now the next thing is I'm going to switch this flow to say, let's retrieve this. So, yep, that's where I'm getting to. I'm just trying to make sure that I understand how to get the page variable, how to set it. So now what I'm going to do is in this process right here, page variable, all accounts, my report. Let's go to the example form. So now we're here. We get page variable. I'm going to say, let's get URL variable. And it's going to be test. That's what we're going to do. So I'm going to say, hey, let's get this test variable. And this test variable should be outputted as page data, which it is. And then we're going to close this. And then on this flow inside the active form flow, I'm going to go to the output mapping of this form data, combo box. And I'm actually going to let me build a list. Create data. Bum, 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 bum. String combo box list. Make this an array. Select from flow or build data, build array. Select from flow. I'm going to grab the page data that I have. Done. Yep, that's essentially what we need to do. So, okay. And then I go to the dashboard. Boom! That's how you do it. Got it. So that's how you do it. I knew there was it's been a while since I've done it, so thank you for waiting with me. But yeah, essentially you have to use the set page variable. So if there's a variable on another component in your page that you want to use the set page variable step to throw it in the URL, because that's how because the point that I was trying to drive home and that I kind of didn't talk through was that if you want to pass data in between page components, you have to put them in the URL, because that's where the other page components know, oh, hey, get this data. Hey, get this data. So that's how you'd want to do it. Set page variable, get page variable. And then another thing that you'll want to be aware of, it may have seemed like it was not relevant, but it actually was very important. Notice that I created my own separate flow called get page variable flow, right? The reason why this is important is because the error that I got was that it wasn't in getting the page context ID. Whenever you use a flow that's going to pass data between different page controls, you must create your own separate flow that you're going to call as a subflow, but you must have this behavior type set. This is one of the key ingredients to have it there. So this is another big point. It may have seemed like I was just building a flow randomly, but I had to build a subflow that had this context and this behavior type so that it knew, oh, I see your drop-down list. Oh, I see your other control, because it was reading the actual page on that dashboard. So that's another big takeaway from it. So I'm actually going to type an answer here. So type an answer. So the steps you want to use, set page variable, and then get page variable, and then must set a subflow to page context aware flow, and then send. All right, I just sent you that. I hope that was helpful. Thanks for watching me scrounge around and figure out how to do it, because like I said, it's been a while since I've messed around with page variables. But thanks for giving me the mental exercise. All right, any other questions before we wrap up? Any other comments, questions, criticisms, analogies, syllogisms, metaphors? Alrighty, thank you so much everyone for attending. I hope this was helpful, and tomorrow we won't have a lunch and learn, but our lunch and learn will resume next week at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from Monday through Thursday. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time.